I don't usually go to my wife with help for sermon preparation. I wonder where you go to when you need help, who you turn to. Maybe it depends on what sort of help you need. See, if I was trying to wrangle our children into bed, or if I wanted to know the best way to approach people in difficult circumstances, the first person I go to would be my wife. But if I'm preparing for a sermon, generally I turn to the books on my shelves. Of course, in all these situations, a prayer or two doesn't go amiss either. But I do wonder sometimes if, by always turning to the same people for help about the same things, I'm missing out on something new, something deeper, a different way of doing things that could be really wonderful. And it hit home to me this week when I was having a conversation with Vicky. While she is good at many things, as I say, sermon preparation is not one of them. So when I mentioned to her that I was struggling with what to say and how to say it, I was expecting a little sympathy and not too much more. But within a 5-minute conversation, God spoke to me through Vicky. In that conversation, she made a suggestion which sparked an idea, which is, I'm certain, exactly what God wants me to talk about. God help me, spoke to me through an unexpected source. I got help preparing a sermon from my wife. I wonder now if there are some books on my shelves that might help me wrangle the children into bed. Over the last few days, we've been reading together from midway through Acts 10 all the way into Acts 12. And there are a couple of times in these verses where God speaks, God provides insight and help, maybe from unexpected places. It starts with Peter's encounter with Cornelius. Cornelius, who was not one of God's people, but to whom God had spoken. Cornelius, who helps Peter understand the good news of Jesus is not just for circumcised Jews. An outsider who helps bring insight. Later we hear about the church in Antioch. The church, of course, had originated in Jerusalem, and it was from there that the apostles led the early church. That's where the power was, that's where the numbers were. The church in Judea, in Jerusalem, was the first church, the strongest church. And yet here is one of its daughter churches in Antioch sending it help. Again, I wonder how often we are open to help from sources we see as inferior. How often we're prepared to listen to those who are very new to faith, who are very young. How often we'll listen to advice for those that we know struggle in their own personal lives. When we just, if we're honest, see ourselves as a bit better than them. I wonder how often we might be cutting off potential sources of wisdom, potential channels for the voice of God, because of our own prejudices. Sometimes God speaks to us from the most unexpected places. Sometimes help comes to us from people we might not expect. The church in Jerusalem had been through a traumatic time, persecution and dispersal. Peter himself was still reeling from this. And when we're faced with difficult circumstances, our reaction all too often can be to go to help in the places that we know. We seek help from comfortable places, seek advice from those we are familiar with. But maybe by doing so, we're missing out on a new perspective, a new helpful relationship through which God will speak to us. As we emerge from the trauma of lockdown in the coming months, I'd encourage you to be prepared for something new, for God to speak to you in a new way from an unexpected source. If all we do is listen to the old voices, to the people who we know and are comfortable with, we go back to the same leaders of our churches and in our lives, we will just end up doing things in exactly the same way. But maybe there's something new that God wants for us. So have ears to listen to the new idea, to the person you wouldn't normally go to. Because in this way, God might be leading all of us on to even greater things, just as he was doing for the early church.